Hello, I'm Wraith Pocketwatch, and this is Watch Pocket Gaming, bringing you this exciting delayed coverage of the Giant in the Playground Blood Bowl League. I'm bad at pretending to be a sports commentator. On with the gameplay! Alright, Giant in the Playground Blood Bowl Season 2. Pouring rain. That's interesting weather, which you don't see that often. Because, well, I think it's 2d6 and 4 to 10 is just normal weather. In any case, you'll note that things look a bit different. That is, of course, because at the start of the second season, I started recording my matches live as I was playing them. So, of course, this means I can't move my mouse around to point at things while I'm talking about them, but it means that you can see the mouse movements I made while I was actually playing, and I can infer some of my own thought processes from that, because I can't actually remember them. Now here, you'll note I'm playing No Man in the first round again, and he has chosen to kick. Now, something to note is that having chosen to kick, he's then put... obviously he's got the 3 players on the front line in the middle, which he has to have, but he's also put 2 players on the front line in each wide zone, which is obviously not required, and it just gives me more blocks. So, and 2 of them are on sidelines as well. So, I'm not going to try and push them out the sidelines, because that would require me to use my blitz when the whole thing is they're on the front lines. I can already just block them, and that's easier. But yeah, there's the thing. He's given me these extra blocks, which I'd say is kind of dubious. Because why would he give me more opportunities to beat up his team? Okay, one of my blocks has been immediately taken away because the fans threw a rock at her. But now, obviously, I'm going to beat up the front line. Well, yeah, Stephen North has block. The other 2 thralls there do not have blocks, so I'm now going to move on to this because Sir Conrad does have block and it's more reliable. And since the block he was going to have has been taken away from him, I'm going to use him to blitz that Amazon out the sidelines, knocking her out. So this is a good start so far. And now I want to move him up to be a bit of a nuisance. Because I wanted to talk about the live recording nature of this, I didn't actually talk about the pouring rain. It's -1 to pick up or catch the ball, including interceptions, though won't make a lot of difference here. But yeah, so that's going to be a potential issue for both of us, obviously, because everyone has to pick up the ball at some point. There, I made that block with Matthew Baker, because, of course, at this point, Sir Roderick Murgatroyd also does not have block, and so, while him blocking the Amazon next to him will be 2 dice, it will still be a bit less reliable. Now I'm thinking about my formation and marking players before This is before I started turning off my Steam notifications to avoid them cropping up in videos, as you will have just noticed. Yes, moving players around, because I want to do all this stuff that's safe before I do the riskier blocks, i.e. the ones where I'm using players who don't have block. Now, and now I will make those blocks. I think that this was an unintentional side effect of the previous pushes. I didn't realise I'd end up sticking her next to Sir Jasper, and I think that's why I followed up to mitigate that a bit, so she's no longer assisting if Thraso the Huntress wants to block him. Move Martin up, but I didn't want to move Martin across, because when Bardita the Awaker awakes, I want her to still be marked, probably. But I also want to move my players forwards, because I also want to keep the sideline covered, which is why Martin didn't move inward at all. Knocked out one of my own thralls, which is unfortunate, and now I'll finally pick up the ball. And I will even use a reroll on it. Almost used up the full 4 minutes for my turn there, which doesn't happen that often for me. I mean, I do like to think things through in a fair amount of detail, but it's still not often that I go up to the whole 4 minutes. I don't know if that would have been my choice of blitz, really. On the other hand, I suppose it leaves that area of the pitch somewhat open, so maybe. I'm looking at the pouring rain again. I don't know. I think I wanted to check if it applied to something. I don't know. And now mixes blocks again with the sidelines. See this. If you just didn't put players on the sidelines where they're going to get pushed out, he would avoid a fair amount of problems that he ends up facing. That dodge could have been done more easily. Obviously he made it, but it was riskier. He could have dodged into empty space and then run around, since he was just going to have her stop there. Now, pulls it down, knocks herself out. There is a fairly high rate of attrition in this first half, I'll just tell you now, because I remember very well the high rate of attrition. Oh yes, of course, that's why I'm doing that. For a moment I was confused, but yeah. This means that because the one square on the pitch she could be pushed to is blocked by Sir Jasper, she goes out the sidelines, and it means that I got to do that with a block rather than a blitz, conserving my blitz for future use. And now, yes. Okay, so I haven't moved Sir Roderick yet, but I was thinking they're removing him where usually you want to take advantage of your opportunities to block people, certainly if you can do so favourably, but got to think about the positioning. And that's what I'm doing, because those three Amazons, particularly the two who are not right in Sir Roderick's tackle zone, they can easily just run down the pitch into my half and get towards my ball carrier. There's a fair amount, actually, of just open space that players can, the Amazons can just kind of run into. So I want to do something about that. And of course, one crucial point of what I'm doing about it is I'm do I want to throw a pass? Maybe. But yeah, I'm obviously focusing here on the left side of the pitch because there are not a lot of Amazons in it. It's pretty much all me. Oh yes, I just realised the reason I put Richard Dauntless where I just did was to potentially, I think, well, it was partly for this, but it was also, I think, possibly to make it more difficult for someone to come in and push Sir Jasper out the sidelines, though that is still a risk, which I've made worse by moving Sir Conrad the way that I have. But I want to get my hitting done. Still, I suppose if he wants to blitz Sir Jasper out the sidelines, he has to do it. Firstly, he has to do it 2 dice my choice, which might not work out for him. And secondly, he has to do it with Aganipi Sinope, or however you're supposed to pronounce that. That's his only option, and also it means he has to use his blitz on that, and there might be better uses for his blitz. Okay, now that was a decent move. I mean, he's used up most of his team remaining on the pitch to engineer it, which might not have been the best idea. But he's freed up Arito Thermodosa, and that he just did also good. He's put me with another player on the sidelines, potential problem, although I can just block out of it. And yes, he obviously Arito could have just dodged and still got to there, but it's still decent. Chain pushes, they're cool and useful. And I'm stuck in a few difficulties here, so stand up players first, then hit things. Now, it's not following up because I want to maintain this sort of line that he's going to have difficulty getting those 3 players through. Ah, right. This is my... Yes. We're going to see another sideline push. Now this This is something you don't see very often. It's risky, but I choose to see if I hadn't rolled a push there. Because I was only able to bite a thrall here because I followed up on that push. So if I'd just gotten both downs and stuff, then it wouldn't have worked out. Although, of course, that would also have knocked me over. So it would have been a turnover regardless. Yeah. It's rare that you get a sideline push like that, having to cover 2 additional squares and pushing someone into the crowd from on the sidelines yourself. I just want to see... yeah, okay, we're down to 6 Amazons on the pitch. Yeah, I didn't really expect that dodge to work, but I didn't have anything else in particular to do. Yes, I was saying we're down to 6 Amazons on the pitch, and I have 7 players left, 3 thralls and all 4 vampires. So I have a numbers advantage, but of course it's four thralls and 4 vampires, so it's 8 versus 6 at the moment. Yeah, make that 7 versus 6, and damn. Incidentally, I'm not sure if apothecarize is actually a word, but, well, as far as I'm concerned, it is. Certainly at this point. Of course, he could potentially have blitzed my ball carrier, but it would have been unfavourable. 2 dice my choice. And see, he actually has some potential problems here in that, having brought these 3 Amazons up to me, he's left it more open for me to just run some Mervyn up the pitch, and then they'll be running to try and catch up again. Bloodlust still being a problem. But, see, chain pushes. It would have been even better if I'd knocked over Arito there, obviously, because then Gideon wouldn't be in a tackle zone either. But, yeah, like, if you look at the current positioning of Sir Jasper and Sir Conrad relative to the 3 Amazons who just last turn moved down to Mark, Sir Mervyn and Gideon, like those 3 Amazons will have to dodge potentially some difficult dodges if they Bloodlust is a real problem, but they will have to do some potentially problematic dodges to get to the ball, and of course if you're trying to stop someone scoring, you really want to be in front of them, kind of trying to block their way. You don't want to be behind them running to catch up. Not least because then if you hit them with anything which also pushes them, then you're putting them closer to your end zone. Particularly if you only get a push. You're putting them closer to your end zone where you want to be putting them further away. Yes, feeding them prone thralls can come in very handy. Not least because if they're prone, they're not going to be any use to you this turn anyway. So it doesn't have any negative effect on you. Attrition rate, seriously, it's a big thing in this whole half. So I now have 2 thralls and 4 vampires against 6 Amazons. I'm thinking, like, I probably could have moved forwards more in the past couple of turns. I don't know if there's anything much else that I could have done to make things work better for me. Because a lot of it is I've had bad luck with Bloodlust and he's had good luck with beating up my thralls. Which obviously is a decent tactic because they are weaker than the vampires. But of course, yeah, like, things could be going much better for him if he just didn't give me all these opportunities to push him out the sidelines. Because that's accounted for at least, like, 3 of his players that I've removed from the pitch. And at this point, we're down to 5v5? So maybe it could have been 5v8. On the other hand, maybe not, because if I hadn't been able to push those guys out the sidelines, I would have hit them otherwise, or hit different ones otherwise, and maybe maybe that just would have worked for me in a more normal fashion. But sidelines, I cannot stress enough how significant they are, and not getting pushed out of them. What am I looking at? My injuries. Yeah. 2 badly hurt thralls, 1 who was dead but will be back because of the apothecary, 3 knockouts. Oh, and also looking at the reserves. He has 4 reserves, so that's potentially going to factor in. Oh. Of course, there will have been inducements for this game. I do not remember what they were. They were presumably in no one's favour, but I'm not certain. I hadn't had so many level ups at this point, so I wasn't, like, my team wasn't super valuable. But on the other hand, yeah, I don't know. He could potentially have gotten a 1 dice split on the ball carrier, which might have been a better idea. On the other hand, he was, I happen to remember, specifically targeting the thralls, which, as I said, is a decent tactic because they are weaker and squishier. Of course, now he's just put Sir Conrad in exactly the right position to push his player out the sidelines. I'm not entirely sure why he put her there in the first place, because she was potentially halting my advances just fine where she was. And now, yeah, at this point, so at this point I have only one thrall and 4 vampires, and so I kind of have to throw caution to the winds a little bit. Okay, I'm still being as cautious as I can be, moving up my 1 remaining thrall, just in case. And it turns out to be relevant. I suppose yeah, if I hadn't had a thrall here, that would have been bad. Now I don't have a thrall, so caution wins throwing. Balls. Yeah. Worth noting, we are still equal in numbers. However, he has a player standing back in my half, not doing anything, which of course is something I brought up in my video of our first match, just leaving players not doing things. But yeah, given that I'm now out of thralls, throwing caution to the winds, trying to just go for the touchdown. I mean, it's pretty late in the half, so I have to be going for the touchdown pretty quickly regardless. But I'm not even trying to like cage it, because I have to make sure, like, even if Sir Mervyn had failed his bloodlust there, I think I would still have run him up, because, like, at least the ball would be further forwards, and my other vampires could hopefully get it later than blitzing. You'll note specifically running around so I could blitz the Amazon away from Sir Mervyn, just on the off, just in case I didn't knock her over. If I'd only gotten a push, I didn't want to push her and then still have to dodge, because, you know, it's all about minimising numbers of dice rolls. Of course, it was 1 extra dice roll for Sir Conrad's bloodlust, so I could have just gone for the dodge, but if that had failed, it wouldn't have given me another vampire up there. Oh yeah, that's it. If I had rolled a 1 on Sir Conrad's bloodlust, then that would mean that... Oh hell. Yeah. No Bloodwiser babes, definitely, in terms of inducements. Yes, if I had failed to Conrad's bloodlust, then that would mean, by the way the random number generation works, that I would have failed Sir Mervyn's bloodlust if I'd moved him first. So, and then he would have still had to dodge. Whereas, if I... So yeah, so that would be 2 opportunities to just screw it up and drop the ball. Whereas, if I failed to Conrad's bloodlust as it was, then of course he would have left the pitch after making his blitz. But I would still have the ball near the end zone, and Sir Mervyn would not be in a tackle zone, and I might have gotten another casualty. It seemed reasonable. Yeah, this turn is meaningless, though you may note I've specifically put some vampires on the front lines. I'm not sure why Sir Conrad and Sir Jasper are still on the front lines, given that I'm kicking. Just means opportunities for them to be hit, but regardless. Putting vampires on the front lines because having had my numbers of thralls so severely reduced, I figured it was better to try and hold on to the ones I still had. Oh, actually, I suppose the reason for it might have been, like, maybe it was just, like, on the off chance that I rolled a blitz. Because then... Oh, that was the wrong decision. I should have pushed her directly left, because then Sir Mervyn could also have blocked her. Yeah, maybe it was just on the off chance that I rolled a blitz. Screwing up my sideline pushes. It's very annoying. And oh, right, yeah. But I think, yeah, I'm figuring I may as well try out something which I swear I've seen the computer do. Yeah. And it's possible that it is actually possible to do it. Pretty sure I'm about to say it in the chat. Maybe I was lagging. Yes. Never actually done that before. Wondered how it would go. Though the pop-up window with the block dice, while obviously helpful, is very annoying when with the fact that it interrupts your typing if you're typing. Naturally, I choose to be pushed rather than knocked over. Yes, I'm sure I've seen the AI cheat it and get in one more action before the vampire leaves the pitch with another player. My ability to remember what I said a couple of months later is 3 months later or thereabouts is pretty good, as it turns out. Slightly off on my phrasing, but yeah, because I'm sure that's something I've seen with in single player playing against the AI vampire teams there. I'm sure I've seen it where they'll move a vampire who then doesn't have a thrall to feed on, or just chooses not to feed on a thrall, and then they'll do an action with another player, and then after that action has happened, the vampire who didn't feed will leave the pitch. So that was what I had in mind. I was thinking I could maybe get that sideline push done before Sir Roderick left the pitch. But apparently not. Which is a shame, because I wanted to push another Amazon out the sidelines. AI cheats, somehow this fails to surprise. It doesn't really matter because the AI is bad at this game. Yeah. I like pushing players out the sidelines. My friend Quaz tends to comment that it's teaching them about how you shouldn't put your players on the sidelines because they'll get pushed out. It's being a benefactor to them and imparting this useful information in a very memorable fashion. So yeah, this time I am doing the sensible thing and not having those vampires right on the front lines. I do only have 9 players on the pitch, whereas Norman has 11. Yeah. Yeah. Probably more glitch than cheat. And as I said, and am possibly about to say in the past, the AI is pretty bad at the game, so but yeah, so far this is pretty good for the Amazons. They managed to hold me to just that 1 touchdown. So, and now they're receiving. So, if they take the whole of this half to score a touchdown, then it will be a draw. Nothing I can do about it, except, of course, try and take the ball away from them in the meantime. Yeah, you'll notice, again, still with a couple of vampires on the front lines. And the only thrall on the front lines is one with block. Yeah. Could have made that 2 dice if he wanted, but apparently decided not to. This is risky. Giving me a free block, and for no particularly good reason that I can see. And of course making use of Juggernaut, which Juggernaut is a good skill, but it's not something I would take as a first skill on almost any player. On a vampire, maybe. Not a vampire, a Minotaur. Totally different things. I'm getting wires crossed in my head. Yeah, like, potentially on big guys, because they don't have general access, only strength. Then it's potentially viable as just an alternative to block. But on an Amazon Blitzer, I feel like there are considerably better options for your first skill. Finally managed to pick up the ball, so that's something. And immediately throws a pass. Now here's the thing. It's like, really, he wants to try and be safe with this. And given the pouring rain, I wouldn't want to throw that pass, because it's one more. Well, there's the potential that you could screw up the pass as usual, and then you could screw up the catch. Even more of a risk because of the pouring rain. Plus, particularly given that catcher was on the sidelines, like, what if... Yeah, okay, yes. Passing like that in the rain, probably not the smartest thing he's done, indeed. But, yes. Of course, it must be noted that other than the middle of the pitch is fairly open at the moment, and of course that's what I'm immediately moving to cover. I mean, you know, one has to get past the prone vampire and the no longer prone thrall, but yeah, okay, so he's not going to have an easy time getting anyone through. So now I'm looking at my blocks, and I think I may end up blitzing the ball carrier this turn. Because I can, so long as I pass Bloodlust. I can't really get a thrall round there, which means I need sort of a backup plan for it. But Sir Jasper can do it with one going for it, Sir Mervyn can do it with a dodge. And yeah, see. So yeah, this is the thing. He covered the front. He covered everything in front of his ball carrier, but not behind. Of course, I don't manage to get anything out of it, but I'm still sort of getting up in his business, as people say. However, if he wants to get up the pitch now, yeah, he can move Rory out of the way and then have a decently clear run. Problems of trying to cover the whole pitch while also sort of counter-attacking. But the flip side for me, she's hardly out of my reach. So I don't know. Again, could have been done with an easier dodge. And a knocked out vampire, that's annoying. Okay, and yeah, so what the Amazons really want to be doing here is just, okay, fouling another vampire off the pitch, apparently. But what they really want to be doing in terms of dealing with this position is putting tackle zones on me, which, okay, that dodge was fairly crazy into 3 tackle zones, but it is in line with what I was just saying, putting tackle zones on me to make it more difficult for me to just run over and blitz the ball carrier there. I don't have any favourable blocks. So... oh yeah, that. This is a bit over elaborate, and it still doesn't work. I didn't think this through properly, because I already had to dodge Cat to move to there to assist on this block, and now I still have to dodge a thrall, and even if I'd managed to remove the requirement for me to dodge a thrall to get them round to the ball carrier, I already had to dodge one to give myself the possibility. So yeah, definitely didn't think this through entirely, and okay, I failed the dodge. You know, whereas if I had just dodged a thrall straight away, put them in front of Thracer the Huntress, and then dodged to Conrad, who dodges better, I could have got that blitz in, knocked the ball loose. As it is now, I may have some issues. I mean, well, Thracer the Huntress is 2 squares further up the pitch than Sir Conrad, 1 further than Richard Dauntless and Cat Blade. Which means if she makes 2 going for it, then I can't hit her. Actually, if she makes 2 going for it, she will be in the end zone. So at that point, I definitely can't hit her. But even if she only moves her regular movement, no going for it, I would then need 2 going for it on Sir Conrad or 1 on either of those thralls to blitz her. So yeah, definitely should have just dodged the thrall around there and gone straight for the important thing immediately. The one good point I can take away from this is that, of course, now I will be receiving the ball again, and so hopefully I can score another touchdown and still win. And, you know, with a bit of luck this time I won't get, like, 7 thralls taken off the pitch. Though I am, of course, still fighting a numbers disadvantage. In fact, yeah, 7 players. I remembered that I suffered all those injuries in the first half, lost a bunch of thralls, and eventually had only vampires on the pitch, so I had to just hope that bloodlust didn't screw me. But I'd forgotten how many of them were actually casualties, and therefore how much I had problems with just not having enough players on the pitch. Which I know, of course, is something I've complained about before. Not enough players on the pitch means I can't come back properly when my luck changes. But you know, sometimes you can. It does make it much more difficult, though. I mean, you look at this and yeah, like at the start of the game, I commented on all the Amazons on the front line means I get more blocks. Here, I can't take those blocks because I have to deal with the ball. Fortunately, the pitch invasion is completely in my favour. Yes, I remember this now. Like, I was pretty sure I could manage. Like, if you look at the right-hand wide zone, he had one player there, so it was pretty open. I was fairly confident I could get a touchdown that way. Nice. Just immediately taking an opportunity to even out the numbers even more. Unfortunately, no star player points for that, because the crowd did it. Yeah, I was pretty confident I could run a touchdown through the right-hand wide zone, but I think I was not so confident about my ability to do so, like, slowly. So I thought he might easily be able to force me to rush it, then meaning there will be enough time for an equaliser and the game could end 2-2. Like that I suspect was how I was looking at it. But the pitch invasion means I've got a couple of turns before half his team will be able to do anything. So yeah, the one issue I have is it's still pouring rain. Picking up the ball is hard. But for this turn, there are 4 Amazons. Okay, so there are now 3 Amazons who can do things. It's looking pretty unlikely that they'll get the ball. Now, 2 Amazons. And of course, Aganipi has come down this way, which means Richard Dauntless and Sir Mervyn are free to... Like, if I can get the ball to them, they are free to just head for the end zone, unchecked. And there's that one remaining Amazon. Okay, failed the going for it rather than the pickup, but I was moderately confident that the pickup would not work, because picking up the ball in a tackle zone in pouring rain, only agility 3, odds were not in favour. Oh, I get to use wrestle. And so yeah, not taking chances here, ensuring that Sir Jasper does not have to dodge, even though he does have the dodge skill, and trying to pick up the ball with agility 4. I still need a reroll. But There we go, I have the ball. I might be about to pass it. Because I can pass it to Sir Conrad. Of course, I have no rerolls now. So, yeah, okay. Right, yes. Checking the range there. But of course, because Richard Dauntless is... Because the line of the... Okay, that's weird. What? And I fumble. This is the thing, though. Like I said, the pitch invasion just made everything so easy for me. It meant that I could muck about with things that were more risky and not have it come back and bite me. That said, like, I should have been passing to Sir Mervyn. I suppose the thing is, Richard doesn't have to roll Bloodlust. I think that may have been my thinking. And instantly downed. But Sir Mervyn would have had the better chance of catching it, and they were both in the same range, because the line between the ranges was going through Richard Dauntless Square, which means he counts as the further range away. Stand up, Rory, which I obviously didn't do last turn. No. Okay, I didn't just accidentally foul. But yeah, fumbling the pass was the only way it could screw up for me, really, because otherwise I would have, like, even if the pass was not caught, the ball would have been down the pitch near my guys, so that probably would have worked. And of course, I think the other reason, I guess, that I was throwing to Richard Dauntless was simply because getting start player points on your thralls is a pretty good idea. Trying to not just do everything with the vampires. Let the thralls have some time in the limelight, so that you don't just have a team of 4 superstars and however many completely useless linemen. So now there's not much more to look at here. And I score instantly. Right, I wasn't sure if I would try to kill the clock a bit more. This does mean that Merman has 2 turns in which to try and equalise, but I was fairly confident that I could stop him, even with my severely depleted team. So I mean, 2-turn touchdowns are difficult to pull off. I mean, it helps that he has a decent passing game, but still, 2-turn touchdowns. It requires a minimum of 1 going for it from him, and probably a pass. And of course, there's the pouring rain to consider. I think that was the real deciding factor, as I recall. I might well have done it anyway, but the fact of the pouring rain meant I spent considerably less time thinking about it than I otherwise would have. Messing about with my formation. I'm pretty sure this was before I started really thinking through my formations. I don't remember exactly when I started properly thinking through my formations, but of course at this point, having only 8 players on the pitch, a planned formation obviously wouldn't work anyway, because they tend to be dependent on having 11 players on the pitch, but I would have had something to kind of start from. And so, yeah, ideally, I want. Okay, for the final drive, the weather changes to nice, which negates my point about the pouring rain making his touchdown less likely, but it's still going to be pretty difficult. But yes, that's not where I would have pushed him to. I would have pushed him to the right as I look at it, because then there would be a free line through with no dodges for someone on the front lines to get into potential scoring range, which of course is very important. Okay, manages to pick up the ball now. Okay, actually he has managed to clear a line regardless, just on the other side. So that's okay. Now, here's one thing though. Okay, and now I can stop worrying because he has no one in scoring range and only 1 turn left. So it's impossible for me to not win this game. Yeah, like, I would really not choose, in general, to immediately pass the ball there. I would run my capture, well, that's the thing, I would run multiple people into scoring range, but have the thrower hold on to the ball, because then you pass it the following turn to whoever is still standing. Because this is the thing. Like if you'd run like it's possible for an Amazon team to have 4 catchers. Pretty sure. But regardless, if you'd run like 4 players to the sort of area where Thraso the Huntress is now, then I can only blitz 1. Oh, Pocketwraith a fractured leg to dead. So fractured leg then. It is rare that one would choose the death. I think I did it once, where it was in a single player thing with an elven team of some description, and it was an agility down, and basically I was just like, an elf with only agility 3 might as well be dead, because they're getting fired anyway. And it just sort of amused me to go, agility 3, you are dead to me anyway! In exactly that tone of voice. Engineering 3 dice, of course, always fun. As it turned out, I only needed one. What was I saying? I do not want to follow up. Because you see, a crucial point here is I don't want any of the 4 players there to catch the ball. Because, like, if they caught the ball, then they can't do anything with it. And I want to get star player points for a random completion. Figuring out which button is pass, because I want to pass, not hand off, because you don't get star player points for handing off the ball, only for passing it. And there we go. I didn't quite finish what I was saying about running in multiple potential receivers. Of course, that's the thing. If you pass the ball to your whoever you want to score with, and then run them down the pitch, then I can just hit them. It's one person that I have to hit. If you run in like 4, I can only hit one of them, which means there will be 3 left. Now I can mark them to hope that they will fail to catch the ball, but it may not work. Or, of course, I can go for the thrower who has the ball, but they can be much safer in your half. So, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, interestingly, okay, MVPs. But, player statistics. I don't really look at these anymore, generally. But, okay, just the last point I was going to make was on the end game stats. We each got 2 casualties. We each caused 2 casualties. However, and 3 KOs. However, the Amazons suffered 8 KOs and 4 casualties, and I suffered 5 and 5. There were a lot of self-inflicted injuries in that match. So yeah, that was a thing. But it worked out. And now onwards and stuff.